we can do that with no consequence. So we will, right? If you never make it big, it won't matter, right? Because it won't be worth stealing, or not even stealing. It won't be worth just selling it themselves. And then the other piece of it is if you do require funding, if you require venture capital, angel investment, they're going to want to understand why nobody else can do this and what your specific differentiated value is and why it's protected, right? What's your moat? Patent is a form of a moat that is kind of table stakes in a lot of cases. Like if you have a differentiated technology, why would you not have it patented? And if you go into that conversation and you could patent it, but you haven't started the process, that's a red flag, right? Because why would you not?
Is the process like hard, easy, or just depends?
If you're non-technical, it'll probably be difficult and you'll require help. But there's patent attorneys that know how to do this, and patent attorneys typically are engineers and are technical, and they also know the science of patents. And so what I'd say is it's not difficult because you can start with a provisional patent, which is kind of like a smaller condensed version of the full patent, and it's really a placeholder of a date. And so you can still do it with a patent attorney because you can still shoot yourself in the foot if you just scribble some notes on a piece of paper and say, here's my provisional patent. And then when you go to file the patent, they're like, well, you actually can't claim the stuff you want to because you didn't do the work up front. So you still should work with a patent attorney, but I would say there are a number of firms that are willing to do it on the cheap the first time. And it's because it's just like a VC that's like, I'll sign these 100 people because I expect one to hit. A patent attorney wants to get people in the door working with them because typically if you're an inventor or you have a lot of ideas, you patent this one, you're probably going to have a few more down the line, or you might, right? And so that's what they're banking on. And at a certain point, you're going to be paying full price for these patents. So yeah, I've used some good patent attorneys that help me understand the process, and I followed that pretty much every time. Where you file a provisional, you have 1 year after that date to go file a utility patent or non-provisional patent, and that's the time you give yourself to figure it out.
Do you have any other patents you're working on right now?
Not actively. I have a few kind of things that potentially could be, but yeah, not right now. What we're doing right now is the stuff that we have recently patented. We're working to try and commercialize that and bring it to market.
So you mentioned like elder care facilities. Are there any other like demographics you're going after besides the elder care?
Yeah, so education and kind of like childcare is an important one. When you look at who's the most impacted by bad air health indoors, old, young, immune compromised, right? So elder care, education, and then healthcare is on there too. It's just always been kind of like out of reach for us because it's just longer cycles, more work. I think once you get to a certain point of development, you can start to go after healthcare, unless you have a really strong in. But and then on the back end of it, it's like workplace. Where do people congregate? Where you want them to be productive? At work. And if remote work is going away and more people are in the office, you want them to be productive, you want them to be healthy, and so in a workplace makes a lot of sense too.
So I think with startups, a lot of startups challenge like the goals have like tech and marketing like right side by side, right? Usually the tech's here, sales and marketing is down here, or vice versa, right? How have you kind of balance it or make sure they're both at the same level?
Yeah, well, I think as you grow as a company and get bigger, that becomes more critical that you're intentional about that, because it's very easy for the tech group to kind of silo and the marketing group to kind of silo unless you're intentional and just combine them. When you're at the early stage and you kind of have like a couple or a few people in each thing and you're a tiny little team, it's a lot easier. You still need to make sure they're talking. It's in the early stage, it's the CEO's job to be like, you from marketing, you from technology, make sure you have like a bi-weekly meeting where you're on the same page, right? Because they might not do that without you saying it, but it's not like a regular drumbeat where you really need to reinforce it a ton. But as you grow, it becomes harder and harder to do.
Can you talk about even the partners you have helping you build this out?
Yeah, so I won't talk specifics, but I think working with universities has been really good for us. So like I mentioned a study that we did for prevention of transmission of COVID-19 with our product. We did that with a university, and I think one, it provides a level of credibility and kind of like third party independent. Like they don't care about our company, right? They just they care about science. And so we've done studies, and then we've also gone through the process of working specifically with professors at universities to develop new technologies, right? And so some of the new work that we're doing now is directly partnered with kind of the engineering departments of universities. And so I would say, that's a resource that not everybody considers, but it's been a really good one for us. It's kind of a way of scaling your team, right, in a way. And sometimes it's economical too, especially if you can get grant funding for it. And then we do have a partnership we're forming right now with, our product so far have been portable, meaning you can plug it into a wall and it works and it's flexibly deployable. What we're moving towards next is the built environment. So like imagine, built into the ceiling or the HVAC system of centrally controlled, working with everything else in the building, and you can design it in. That's kind of the key is when you're designing a building, you don't want to source a bunch of products that are going to plug into a wall, right? That's kind of like way down the line. And so if we can develop a product that meets the need and it's built into the plan or the design for the building architecturally, that's ideal. And so we have a partner right now that we're working with where that's a reality. And so it's a national partner, and they do a lot of technology kind of in commercial ceilings and ceiling tiles. And so, it's not a launch partnership yet, but we're excited, and they're excited, and it's we have the best technology. They have the industry expertise, the sales reach, and the development capabilities to go make this national and global.
So I think a lot of founders struggle with figuring out what to charge. How did you come up with your pricing model?
Yeah, that I would say it's one that we've had to kind of learn the hard way a few times. So we started out pretty low, and that during COVID, and it was like, let's get our product out there. After some time, realized that what it actually cost to build it, and so we had to start to kind of flex. Like it's great that the market's willing to pay it. We need to make money at some point or show a path to making money. And so one thing that we were able to do is through grants and through other funding mechanisms, we were able to sell our product at a good margin of what we were able to make it at small scale, right? And then, I think with hardware, it's two-part. It's like, what's your cost of goods and what's your gross margin? And then what is the market willing to pay? And you kind of don't know either up front, right? You do all your work to learn about your cost of goods or your COGS. But there's new information that comes in every day, and you learn. But then like understanding what people are willing to pay takes time, right? And that was a year or two of learning before we really dialed that in. So I would say we didn't have any magic, but you do know that as a piece of hardware, you need to have, especially if you're looking for venture funding, you need to be 50 to 70% gross margin on a piece of hardware for it to be attractive. And so that needs to be your target. And if the market's not willing to pay what your product is with a 70% margin, where can you build it cheaper? How can you build it cheaper, right? And when you have a product that's aiming to be the best in the world, which we have always done, like the most effective, there are added costs to making it the best, right? And so what of those are important? What of those are critical? If you know that the customer is not willing to pay the price it takes, sometimes you gotta back off some of the technical achievements.
And where are you making this at? It's like factory in Gig Harbor or factory in China, India, or like where are you actually making it?
It's in Washington. Yeah, so we're still building in Washington State. We haven't gone overseas. We've considered it, and I think with the administration changes and the tariffs and all that unknown, we kind of backed off that a little bit. But we have mechanisms to build the product for cheaper, and I think those are things that we'll continue to kind of grow into. But yeah, as of now, we're built in Washington State, and it's a great thing because there's highly capable manufacturers in Washington State. You're going to pay a little more, but you're going to have a lot more control over the process.